Okay guys, we're gonna go over the deadlift today here. We're gonna get Sarah under the bar here and go over a bunch of different coaching cues, and we're gonna try to find a deadlift that works best for you. What we're gonna do today, guys, is we're gonna kind of work from the ankle up. So you notice how Sarah first gets under the bar. What we want you guys to do is get used to coming up to the bar and putting the bar over your foot in the same spot every time. Traditionally, it's usually going to be about midfoot somewhere. You might be a little bit more forward than midfoot or a little bit further back, depending on your body type. But we're going to start with this at midfoot. And when she squats down, she's not going to roll the bar to her shin, but other than she's going to push her shin to the bar. So we don't want the bar to move, okay? She's got about a hip width with her stance is what we're going to start off with. And then you can notice her arms are making an A. So you got to get your grip wide enough. So if you come in too narrow, it's going to create her knees to cave in. Okay? So we don't want your knees caving in. So make sure your grip is wide enough to clear room for your knees. Okay? So you can come in a little bit more right there. Okay, good.
We also don't want it too wide.
Too wide, right, exactly. So just clear your knees. Make sure that your elbows aren't getting in the way. Before we start the lift, she's gonna put the bar in the midfoot, push her shins to the bar. She's gonna tighten her lats, pushing her shoulders down towards her hips. You can see her drawing. We wanna be super tight when we go to do our deadlift, okay? She's gonna tighten up, she's gonna tighten her core. We want her butt lower than her shoulders, but push your hips up too high. So we don't want our butt above our shoulders, we want our butt below the shoulders, but above the knee. She's gonna take a deep breath, tighten her lats, and pull that weight up. Good. Now, when she goes back down, we got to talk about going back down. You got to start with like an RDL, so you're just hinging through the hips. As soon as you clear the knee, you start the bend in the knee. So you can watch her come down, guys. She's going to drive her butt back. As soon as she clears her knee, then you start the squat. And you got to get used to putting the bar down midfoot every single time. Takes a deep breath, tightens everything up. And what we suggest here, guys, you can go and rest, is putting your phone to the side of you. So we're gonna put Sarah in a massive back extension and flexion. So she's overarching her back here. This is the quickest way to screw up your back. That means probably, most likely, she's not engaging her core. She's not engaging her core. So when she tightens her core, and that's too much rounding the back. So we want your back to be as neutral as possible. So the only way to know that for some of you is gonna be filming your side from the side. So film yourself from the side, take a peek at what your back is doing, that you're not excessive arching your back or rounding your back, okay? And what else do you think, Sarah?
Good. Also, a lot of people, when they come down, when they fatigue, they wanna tuck that pelvis, AKA round their back. So what we want to do is think of sticking that tailbone towards that back wall. Like Jimmy said, think of an RDL, think about hinging at those hips versus tucking and letting those knees drive forward on your descent.
Right. The bar should come down in a straight line, guys. So watch Sarah again here when she comes down. So she'll pick the weight up, and then in order to get that bar to come down in a straight line, she's got to drive her butt back. And then she can, once she clears her knees, then she can go ahead and bend the knee to get down to the floor. Very good. Okay, and then what we're also gonna do here, guys, is we're gonna show you a sumo stance. So Sarah's gonna coach you a little bit through the sumo here. So if a narrow one is not working for you, then we're gonna go with a wider stance. Okay.
So a sumo squat stance is gonna be good for, clients or people with a little bit longer levers. So if you have long legs, long femurs, okay, this might be the stance that might feel a little bit more comfortable to you, okay? What it does is it automatically, just by widening your stance, it's gonna lower your hips closer to the bar. So it requires a little bit less mobility than a conventional, and that's okay. All of our hip joints are kind of made differently, they fit differently. So one is probably gonna feel a little bit better than the other, and that's okay. So typically in a sumo squat stance, and I'm calling it sumo squat because the traditional sumo is really far. So I usually like to coach a sumo squat, so a little bit more narrower. And I like the toes pointed out slightly, and the knees are always gonna go where the toes go. So this is gonna, activate the glutes. You're probably gonna feel a little bit more adductor activation, okay? All great things, all right? So with your grip, a lot of people wanna grab too narrow in this stance, okay? Or they wanna grab too wide. We want right where those arms fall to be where your grip, and you grab onto the bar, making sure you're symmetrical. So as you grip, same technique applies. We want the hips slightly above the knees, but still below the shoulders. Nice neutral spine, big breath, big brace before we lift. So we drop, up, pull the lats in, and drive the hips through the bar. Okay, same thing, we push the hips back. Okay, you may feel a little bit more of a vertical shin angle to the floor during a sumo than you would with a conventional, okay? And that's okay, all right? So what we don't wanna see is a super square foot stance with a wide, because that's gonna probably make those knees wanna cave in. So that slight eversion in the feet is gonna lend to a wider, more open hip position.
Hips.
Yep.
Yeah, anytime you just remember, as a good rule of thumb, the wider you go, the more your feet are going to be externally rotated, even in a squat. If you got your feet nice and narrow, you can go with your toes straight. As your stance widens, the feet got to start turning out a little bit.
And always remember, tension is power here. So as we lift that bar, that brace is super important. We brace strong so we don't yank ourselves out of form. Okay, so big brace, and we pull through, versus big brace and then yanking ourselves out of position, okay? So tension is power when we're deadlifting.
And let's show them another side view of traditional, how when Sarah gets in her deadlift here, she's gonna keep her shoulders ahead of her hips, so she's not gonna drive her butt up first. So with this being said, what she just talked about, when she lifts this off the ground, see her butt came up first, passing her shoulders up. Keep your shoulders come up the same rate as your hips. So her shoulders are gonna stay above her hips as she lifts the bar. And then also another cue too, you guys can pay attention to here, is flexing your triceps. You don't want any bend in your elbow, because that's gonna give when you go to lift a lot of heavy weight up. So you want your triceps locked so this arm is nice and rigid, so the weight will just come off the ground immediately. It doesn't have to straighten your arm before the weight comes off the ground.
Keep those armpits tight.
Yeah. Okay, so how we like to do things here at Mountain Tough is when we're talking about a 5-rep max, we like to call it like a training max. We don't want to take unnecessary risks. So for instance, like when we did our deadlifts yesterday, if we're doing a 5-rep max, we like to play it safe and my 5-rep max, I could probably do it 7 times. I don't want my last rep to be an actual true max, because then I'm taking bigger risks on getting injured. So if we're doing an 8-rep max, it's probably something that we could all do 10 times. So if you follow that kind of a rule, it turns this lift into a lot safer lift. So try not to, we're gonna be doing a 5-rep max for 8 reps. Your 5-rep max should be something that you feel comfortable, you could probably do 7 to 8 times. Yeah, play it safe that way, okay? And your strength's still gonna go through the roof with this, but we're not gonna do what's called a true max, because there's a lot of risk involved of pushing yourself to the very limit on a deadlift and squat.
And we expect those 5 reps to be perfect form, okay?
Yeah.
Just because you're getting it off the floor doesn't mean it's a quality deadlift. So be sure, even if it does take filming yourself, to make sure that you're getting all your checkpoints, okay, before you lift that bar. It's imperative that everything is meeting, optimal form, low risk, feeling good when you pull that bar all the way through to the top.
Yeah, if you do 5 reps and you're filming yourself and your 4 looks really good, but your 5th one, you rounded your back really bad, we don't want to count that as your max. Go down in weight, make all 5 excellent form. So, and live by that rule. Make sure it's something you could probably do 2 more times. That way you're not overdoing it.